You are now listening to the Hunter's Advantage podcast. We preserve the history and sport of hunting through curious conversation and action-packed hunts, as well as offering you tips and strategy for more successful hunts. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hunter's Advantage podcast. This is episode number 163. I'm joined by my esteemed co-host, looking a little more tan after this last weekend. He's got 2 good weekends in a row. One weekend, Alabama, next weekend, scouting on public land. This guy's going to be dark by the end of the year. How's it going, Jake?
My Cherokee is coming out strong this summer, but pretty good. We got, kind of like you said, we got trail camera season 2023 officially kicked off. So that feels really good. What's your favorite thing about having trail camera set up?
Pictures.
Christmas morning.
No, knowing that you knock out some of the worst work that exists out there. Setting them out is legitimately the worst thing ever when you set 20 plus on public land. But every time after that, it's easier because you're getting to check something. You're getting a little bit of pie on the other side. So yeah, that's what I look for. That's what makes me the most happy, is knowing that a good amount of that work is done.
That, and plus most of the kinks should be ironed out at least until October hits, because we kind of had a really could have been bad kink in the plans. Like, so you traveled up here to Northeast Oklahoma to see family, and then from there, so were you seeing family, or did you just come up here to pick up your bear skull? Oh,
the family listen to this podcast?
Probably
no,
not.
I'm just kidding. No, my dad's side of the family had a family reunion the weekend before we went, and I didn't get to go. So I came up a couple days early, picked up my bear skull, and then saw them. So yeah, I got to see them for like a couple days, which was kind of nice.
Yeah, but before we went to our public spot to scout, we stopped at Wally's, grabbed $20 worth of batteries, a few SD cards, a few hydration,
liquid IVs.
Yes, thank you. And Christian forgot that bag at Walmart, so we paid for it and all that stuff, but he just didn't grab it. So Walmart got like $35 worth of supplies.
Did you ever call him about it?
No, because by the time that happened, it was like 2 days, and I was like, listen, I want to get someone up there that is going to be like, I don't know what you're talking about. Or do you have the receipt? No, I didn't have the receipt either. So
got wrecked. Well, before we get too deep into our stories, we are talking about scouting on public land today. I don't think you can count this as a hunt talk episode, but maybe it is.
Scout talk?
Scout talk, yeah. So we're talking about the scouting that we did the last weekend on public land in Oklahoma. And I think for folks that keep up with us quite a bit, Oklahoma is going to be a big focus for us this year. We kind of got our eggs last year spread in too many baskets between Kansas and Oklahoma, and kind of split a lot of our time. And so we didn't get to put as much effort into public land in Oklahoma than we wanted to. So, but that is changing. That is changing this year, this season. Do you think that's for the best?
I think it's for the best, because I think we got some really, really good spots, and I think we're going to see the full potential of this area. So I'm just going to put it at that. I mean, we've gotten great pictures in the past, like better pictures than I think like my private and your private combined. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's just an area that has really big bucks, and I don't know. Looking back, we talked about this the other day. Like, so we scouted at Hardin 2020, scouted at Hardin 2021, and looking back through the trail cam pictures from 2020, there was some bucks that I completely forgot about until the other day. You were like, hey, do you remember this one? Like the corkscrew buck and all this stuff. We had giants that any person probably in this country would be happy to shoot, that we gave absolutely no focus to, just because we were chasing that bigger deer, which is ridiculous to think about.
Yeah, but that did end up paying off.
That year it did, but the years it didn't pay off, kind of like last year for me. I mean, for you it did, but then I think about those deer like that, like, because we think if we can find them, we can kill them. Like, that's just our motto, whether it becomes true or not. Like, that's just the mindset we try to have. And with that being said, it's just like I'm a little upset like we didn't put more effort into it last year when we were hunting Kansas, because we honestly got better pictures on the Oklahoma private than we did the Kansas private or
Yeah,
public.
public.
Sorry.
Yeah, we definitely did. And I don't know, this year is a little bit different. We didn't draw out for Kansas. Me and Peyton put in for a completely different unit. We didn't draw out. We went to Canada, and then I'm possibly going to go to Nebraska for mule deer. So this year has been kind of spread in different species for me. And I don't even know if we'll get to check off a different state this year for whitetail. But even if we don't get to, I'm really excited to focus because I know that there's good bucks in Oklahoma and the places that we're hunting. Because I feel like it's really easy to get your attention divided, and you're already hunting a good spot, but you're like, well, let's dip out, let's go somewhere else. Like you said, grass is always greener. We did that and went to Kansas, and I don't know. We need to make some hay while the sun shines at the place that we get to hunt right now.
Yeah, yeah. I want to say more, but then it just kind of gives it away. So yeah, so it's like one of those. But if you're listening to this, if you're an out of stater listening to this, Oklahoma does not have big deer. But if you're an in stater, Oklahoma still does not have big deer. But this place
they do in
does.
the Panhandle. I've heard that.
Yeah, there you go. Talk about pronghorn, huh?
Yeah.
But what do we do this weekend though?
It's suffering, pain, and suffering. That's what we did this weekend. Like Jake said, we spent a little bit of time. I got to pick up a couple recurves because I drew out for a really cool hunt on some land in Oklahoma, public land, and we headed to a place that we scouted and hunted in the past, and got picked up at some SDs. I think we ended up having like 24 cameras that were functional and working before we went. Obviously, Jake talked about losing some batteries at Walmart, and
so we didn't get to set out like 4 or 5 of them, I think.
Yeah, we had five left over. That's
fine. It actually works out because a video is about to come out on this here in, I don't know, the next 5 months or so. But it's going to be talking about kind of how we scout public land. Christian, I think, did a video on this like 2 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, a couple years ago.
That I don't know if it's trademarked or whatever, but we call it the funnel method. And it's basically where you just cast a wide net of trail cams to try to just collect inventory. And then as the season progresses, so like here in probably a month, we're going to go back there and check cameras, collect intel, and then rearrange some cameras to where they need to be allocated to. So the cameras that produced will probably stay, and then the ones that didn't will kind of get closer and closer to that camera that did produce. Where sooner or later, just as time goes down, just like a funnel, you pour water through a funnel. Sooner or later, it comes to a point, and hopefully the bottom of that point is where we can deflate a big old buck. So that's
it's when it's over 100 degrees or over 90 degrees, whatever it was when we were there, there is no point in looking for that exact spot where that buck is going to be in the fall when you're scouting in the summer. One, you should have done that scouting postseason. I feel like we did some of that, and it's a lot easier when you kind of have that intel directly after the season. But you got to realize in the summer, like you were saying, the bucks are using it's as hot as it's going to be all year. They're using the easiest routes as possible to get from place to place. They're using watering holes. And I really feel like you can exploit them on that kind of pattern just to see what's there. Are you going to hunt a deer, right off a road that's 50 yards from a main road? No. But can
in
you
2020, I thought that.
Yeah.
As soon as we got that big old bachelor group in 2020, I was like, dude, we're going to hang like right here on this road, like probably 50 yards off the main road, and like we're in the money. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's honestly what I thought. What were you saying?
That's fair. No, I was going to say maybe some people will hunt that way, but I'm not. And
you learn.
Yeah, you learn. You think that a camera right there, a camera doesn't have to be in a spot where you're actually going to kill a deer. It just has to notify you that one worth pursuing is even there. And if you don't care about, a rack or shooting a big one, this probably doesn't even apply to you, because you can just hunt in a spot that's good and not care what's there and shoot the first nice one that walks by. That's cool too. But for us, we're hunting a place where we think the quality of deer is really, really high, and we know it to be. So that's what we're That's what we're trying to do.
Well,
Go ahead.
It's kind of like so you just did a podcast with Adam Hayes. Yeah, that's his name, right?
Yep.
Adam Hayes. Yep. And he said the hardest part about finding a big buck, or the hardest part about killing a big buck, is finding it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what we're doing here. Is we just got to know they exist. What was the second part you just said?
I forgot.
Damn it!
What was I talking about? Oh, just hunting and shooting a decent one.
Oh yes, thank you. And but with that being said, like obviously you don't want to just like everybody falls in love with deer, and you tend to want to think you're going to pass like the smaller ones to get to the bigger one, but in reality, like you're not really hurting yourself setting your goal on that bigger one, because if that bigger one's in that area, there's probably one along the way of you finding that bigger one that will come and you'll cross paths with that will make you happy. Does that make sense?
It's happened to me every time that way.
Yeah.
Shoot for the stars and settle for the moon. That's what.
That's
or maybe
good.
That's backwards.
Vice versa, but yeah, we get it.
You get the point. Yeah. So we went out. We put out a bunch of cameras. There was, I think, our first. We like to do it in loops. So when we get out, we walk 2 or 3 miles and just try to get a big, broader area done. So I think we did that immediately in the morning after deleting a bunch of old pictures off SD cards and battering our cameras up. And what was that loop? Probably 2.5, 3.
That one I have no clue.
I know
the last one we did, but I think the first one was a little bit longer, but it was a little bit easier walking.
Yeah, we put out 12 there. That's a historically pretty decent area that we've got for pictures, and I'm excited to check those already. We put 12 out in that first spot, and within that spot, it's kind of we're looking for the spot within the spot. So the broader area, there was probably 3, 4, 5 different little areas that could sustain somebody hunting, and that's what kind of excited me is when you get those pictures of a buck maybe half mile away, okay, he could be in this bedding area over here, though. I could be hunting him, or somebody else could be hunting him over there. It's kind of part of the fun of it.
And it is. And plus what I like, okay, I'm pretty big into safety, right? You can call me a sissy, but I like hunting relatively close, not stacked on top of each other, not like Justin and Jordan like to do it where they like kind of triangulate in like a little small area. I like being far apart, but I like being in the same area because down there you don't really have cell phone service. And honestly, the way you and I like to do it, like we could be hunting 200 yards from where we were first sitting. Does that make sense? Like if we get down and just rearrange or something. And so it hunts really different down there too, because, you got all those hills and drainages and stuff. And so being 800 yards, 1,000 yards apart is like really being in Kansas. Heck, I don't know, like on completely different properties, to be honest. So, but with that being said, like it's a pretty good walk back there. And so I just like that sense of like, okay, we're in the same vicinity. It ain't going to take him an hour and a half just to come walk back here to make sure I'm okay. Does that make sense? Or am I just being a little girl about it?
I mean, you're being a straight up sissy, but it's cool.
I know. I know, but it is what it is. But yeah, no. And with where the cameras are, the fun thing is kind of like you said, like it could hold 3 to 5 spots where someone could set up. Is that where the cameras are? It's relatively centralized. So the person who sets, like, let's say we get a really good picture back there where we're talking about. If you go sit on that little hill, little bedding area where you went and walked the first time we scouted it postseason, that deer could be there, or it could be across the creek back there on one of those ridges where we bumped all those deer.
The Hunter's Advantage podcast is powered by Out on a Limb Manufacturing. Out on a Limb is a family-owned company based right here in Oklahoma that makes tree stands, saddle platforms, climbing sticks, and so much more.
Christian, I have a quick question.
What's that?
What bites down harder, a hippo or an alligator?
No idea.
It's a trick question. The Ridge Runner 2.0 bites harder than both of them. But all jokes aside, we use these products all across the land on public or private. These help us get into any tree we want and hunt where the deer actually are.
Most men go to the grocery store for their meat, but these products help you go to God's grocery store. I have used the Out on a Limb Ridge Runner 2.0 and the Shakar sticks for the last few years hunting public land bucks, and I've actually shot several bucks out of this setup. If you want to support the podcast and get some Out on a Limb equipment, make sure to go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA10 for 10% off at checkout. Once again, if you want to support the podcast, go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA10 at checkout for 10% off. Now let's get back to the podcast.
It kind of brings hope and it gets morale going, knowing that the cameras are somewhat centralized within those 3 to 5 spots where that deer could be anywhere. Let's say there's a mega 180. Let's just say it's centralized. That deer could literally be anywhere. And that way one person isn't just like, okay, I'm going to hunt this 180. You all good luck on whatever you guys want to hunt, but I'm in this spot. This way it's like, we're all 3 hunting the same deer relatively, but we're not screwing up anybody else.
Yeah, and that's kind of the practical use of the information that we're given, because if you do get a picture of let's say a 160 on just a road that you would use to access your spot in the middle of the summer, that's really not giving you more information than he exists. So when you're out there hunting those separate bedding areas and topographies, different just areas in general, you don't know if he's in that one or not. Now we're going to move our cameras in closer and closer and closer, so we might get confirmation of him, but it's not like we're putting out minerals or corn or feed. Like, you're not getting pictures of every buck in the area. So he could be in your area and you never get a picture of him, but on those roads, you can know that he exists.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Again, just knowing he exists. So when you go to set out a camera, what makes you say, okay, this spot, this tree, like we need to hang a camera here? Last weekend, just for people, if they listen to this and be like, man, you all had 24 cameras. How did you know where to set them up at? Like, yeah, I get, you set them up on roads, easy travel, access or whatever, but what's that next step? Or how did you know to hang it at this spot along the road rather than just some random tree?
Well, I do think some random tree will work in most cases, but I would say that I typically am looking for like that next step. So I got the road. That's step 1. Step 2 is there a creek system that crosses the road? Is there is there 2 big hills coming together that create a drainage? Is there some secondary point that gives me another reason for a deer to walk by? Is there a fence laid over where you can tell every deer comes off of a different property and jumps onto the public? That's typically the things that would trigger me to put a camera out. But there's also situations where I'm like, hey, we've been walking for 500 yards. We got to put a camera out. Like, we're not going to get the information that we got.
Bags ain't getting any lighter.
Yeah, the bags aren't getting any lighter. And once you go 500-600 yards, there's no guarantee that same buck's going to walk that road the entire time. So it's not a science. It's just a feel thing.
Well, you had a good tactic last weekend about setting out cameras, because what we did is we kind of, like we said, we kind of allocated, or we budgeted, I should say, like certain amount of cameras to each spot. Now, granted, we always put a few extra in the bag just in case we came upon a spot that really looked good and we're like, oh, we can't hang a camera here because we only have X amount left. We knew this was probably our best spot, so we threw a couple extra cameras in the bag. But with that being said, we halved the cameras, split them up, put like 6 or 7 in your bag, 6 or 7 in my bag. And it was funny because your bag got empty first.
Well, yeah.
And you're
That's
like,
just taking initiative, dude.
You're like, I'm empty. And I'm like, I still have 5 or 6 in my bag. How are you empty? And of course, it's starting to get hot throughout the day. And you're just like, I knew what you were doing.
I'm not taking a break, dude. Somebody, they got to get on the tree one way or the other. So might as well start ripping them out. But I was thinking about that. I was like, if Jake's not going to get one in his bag, I'm not going to sit here and wait. I'm putting one out.
Yeah.
Because when they're not heavy going in the bag, but when they got the batteries and stuff in them, they get weighty, and you got 6 or 7 in there. You're like, Trying to get you
Especially when
out.
you're like taking them out and they got like 100 pictures, then they really get heavy. You're just like, oh, no, I'm just kidding. But
Yeah.
oh shoot, what next?
Oh, I was gonna say, I hate being one of the. God, literally, I started to talk like somebody else, and it pissed me off. I hate being like, I got a tip for you guys. I hate saying that because
Mm-hmm.
I think it comes from a lot of times. I'm not coming from that place, but a lot of times it comes from like I know something you don't know kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. And you guys have probably already considered this or thought of this, but
Well, people take it the wrong way, I think, because there's a lot of people that think they know better, and that's not what we do. We just say from what we've learned,
what we do,
and yeah, and from like our mistakes, and like when we say, "Oh, this is a tip we wish we would have known like a year or two ago."
yeah, and maybe it's something we've known even longer. But what I was gonna say is the quality of the camera on public land absolutely does not matter. And from our perspective, we're not worried about specs, trigger speed, because there's people that are like that. They want
Are you
nice.
saying you don't do the 3 burst 64 megapixel
Yep.
only?
No,
Oh my
I know
god.
it's sacrilege. But I was thinking about it when I was editing that recurve slash scouting video we just put out. You said you made a point to when we had a bunch of
It's probably a
cameras.
good point too.
Yeah, could have
I
been.
mean,
But
it's the only point
you
I
had
made.
all the cameras up on the like 5 or 6 cameras up on the bed of your truck, and you said, I wanna show you guys something." You said, "None of these cameras match. These are 5 different cameras. We bought every single one of these off Facebook Marketplace, and they're all piece of crap cameras." You said, "But it doesn't matter because these are the kind of cameras that you're gonna put out on public land." And I just wanna call that out because you don't need good stuff to get started on public land. Heck, half of them are probably gonna get stolen anyway, so you might as well put them out. Old miscellaneous.
I think that's hunting in general though, right? Because
Yeah,
cameras are the least of people's worry. Now, granted, people's probably not going to buy 26 of them, but I mean, as a group, you probably
there's
need
3 of us.
26. Yeah, yeah. If you're hunting in a group and you all hunt the same spot and like these are your hunting buddies, yeah, you probably need 26 as a group, probably, if not more. But you get too many, then it just becomes uncheckable during season. Like 26 is uncheckable during season. But where I was going with that is we talked about, especially you've talked about how over marketed we are as a hunting community, I guess I would say. And
Mhm.
so how like you always need the best thing to be able to kill a buck. Well, you're still here. I'm still here. If you're listening to this, you're still here. Your ancestors did a great job of killing stuff with a stick and string, literally. They didn't have a rangefinder. Granted, I would say you need a rangefinder, but I was thinking about this the other day and I was like, man, I have a Matthews V3 that's a couple years old. I've killed 2 deer with it.
It's outdated. That's why you only killed 2 with it.
That's why. But I was thinking about that. Before that, I had the switchback, and granted, it was a longer time period before I got it, and I wasn't as picky when I was shooting the switchback as I was shooting the V3, just from where I am in my hunting journey. Like now, I try to hold off for the buck I'm after, like one of the hit listers. But with that being said, I looked it up just a little bit ago. Guess when the switchback came out?
2010.
2006.
That old?
Yeah. So in 2020, I was using a 14-year-old bow.
Boy, yeah, that's why you didn't get
I
anything.
tagged out that year. That's all I'm saying. I tagged out that year. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You don't need the brand new flagship bow. You don't need name brand, all matching trail cameras, because the thing is all that's important is that SD. And you don't even need the good SD cards. You use the ONN SD cards. They're like half price. Get those. I'm very budget friendly, and I have a pretty good mindset of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And at the
Mhm.
time in 2020, I was using miscellaneous arrows. My arrows didn't even match. So I know I'm going off on a little tangent rant. I know I am just from the look on your face, but
No, I was laughing about the arrows.
yeah, well, not no more.
No more. And
MMTs, baby.
yeah, I like nice stuff. Like on our private, I use good cell cameras. I use nice stands. Like
Well, private's different though.
it is. But there's somebody that's listening to this that lives 45 minutes from some public, and he's like, "Well, I don't got enough money for some nice new Browning cameras or some da da da." And it's like, dude, get on Facebook, buy buy 5 or 10 of those Chinese ones. I don't even know what they're called. We put one of them out this last weekend. We put out a Chinese camera. When you
Yeah,
turned it
yeah, we
off, it
did.
said bye bye.
Bye
That's what
bye.
I was like, they are not American if they made this.
Bye bye.
Yeah.
Well, a little tip I would give somebody if they're looking for cheap trail cameras is there's a certain state that's in the middle of the country that recently banned cameras on public land. Can you guess?
Kansas.
Well, I would think that there was a whole bunch of trail cameras that probably got sold thinking, oh, I don't need these anymore.
Maybe. Or it's just a bunch of rebels that said, I'm putting these out anyways.
That would be me. To be honest, I think that would be me.
For legal reasons, that would not be. I'm just kidding.
I'm just kidding. I was totally joking, but
that would not be me.
Anyways.
Yeah, we did. So we did a second loop the second half of the day after going and getting some food. And that second loop, it had heated up significantly since the last time. And
just to talk about the heat a little bit. So in the morning, like during the summer, you have that morning dew. So that first loop we talked about originally, where we set out like 12 or 13 cameras, pant legs, boots, everything were just soaked. From the knee down, you were soaked. And so went to grab lunch. And while we were eating lunch in the parking lot, I just set my socks and my shoes just on the bed of my truck. And it was like in the 90s already. By the time I put them on, they were halfway dry. Like the soles were just a little bit damp, but after walking for about 10 minutes, I couldn't tell whether my shoes were wet from like the sweat or the dampness. And so it was like having a new pair of shoes, which was pretty good. It was pretty good, like little morale booster.
I did switch socks. I can tell you
Switching
that.
socks helps too. That's what I said. So Christy came to my house to meet up the night before we headed down, and I was packing my bag and I was packing 2 of everything. And he was like, you don't need much. We're only staying tonight. And I was like, I know better. 2 pairs of underwear, 2 pairs of socks, 2 pairs of pants. Because last time we went down there and scouted in 21, it was because of ticks, but this time it was because of just, I guess,
water.
It was hot. Yeah, it was hot.
Yeah, that's true. We got to jump up a cow elk. That was pretty sweet.
That was cool.
Got pretty close to her. It's funny because her neck was sticking up above the grass, probably 2 foot, and I bet she thought they can't see me.
Yeah, I did.
They can't see me.
You did.
I just saw what looked like a doe head about 4 times normal size, and it was just poking up out of the grass, and I was like, "That's a freaking elk."
Do you think that was a calf or a cow?
I don't know. I haven't seen enough.
Yeah, I haven't either. It looked a little small to be a cow, kind of like what you're saying, but then again, I don't know, because it's an Oklahoma elk. It ain't like a big O.
It looked like maybe a juvie, maybe like a 2-year-old cow or something, like not huge, but it didn't look like a calf. I mean, it wasn't that small. Pretty cool.
Act like you know everything. Go ahead.
I got a tip for you guys.
Yeah, so
cow, elk.
Yeah. Have we talked about the second loop yet? Well,
yeah.
That was the second loop.
Yeah, that was
cow elk, but
yeah, it was more of the same though.
Right.
More of the same.
Well, not really. Like the second loop, we really didn't hang the cameras on a defined like old road or anything like that. That was more spot based.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we spent. Yeah, that was more history based. Like, hey, we know there's good bucks in this area. They're going to use these spots, and we actually did hang some cameras in some places where I would hunt.
Same.
And a spot where I got busted last year on a big like Pope and Young 8. So I'm hoping that we collect some good jewels from that area. But I'm excited. We have close to 20 cameras out, and we're gonna get 5 more out. It was really fun. I felt like when we got back to the truck, we both started dumping ice water on our necks. Like I was about to pass out.
Well, there was that big old hill right at the last stretch, and we were just huffing it. And here, Christian's like, I don't know, like 5'11" or something like that, and he has relatively like shorter legs than me. So I was like trying to like really get to the truck, and so for him to keep up, I know he was kind of struggling. So
Thank you. I
Well.
was. Thank you for telling the world. Yeah. So it's trail cam season. It's velvet season. Buck's got a lot of antler right now. Time to go get out the trail cams.
Have you been shooting any?
You know I have been shooting my recurves. Shot my
Mm.
recurve and my compound this morning. Dude, at 10 yards with my recurve, there was a couple times I almost missed the bag, and the bag is like 2 foot, 2.5 foot, probably by 2.5 foot. And this is like at 10 yards. And I was just sitting there thinking, this is so frustrating.
Well, I mean, you're not used to it. And I mean, I think you'd have to shoot it at least 1,000 times before you even maybe get the hang of it. I mean, a compound's different. Like that's like a mechanical action, but a recurve, that's all you.
It's all on you. Yeah, it literally is all on you. Yeah, I'm excited to figure it out, but it's going to be a journey. Go check out the video that we just put out about public land scouting if you guys are wondering exactly what we were doing and wanted to see us fail at shooting recurves. But we got to run another podcast.
Twice.
Yeah, you only missed the bag twice. We got to run another pod, so we'll catch you guys in the next episode.
Jesus loves you.
Bye. Thank you guys so much for checking out the Hunter's Advantage podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to the podcast. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you in the next episode.